Hey everyone, it's David and this is Nancy, and we are talking to you today about some relationship stuff. A lot of people that we work with are feeling kind of down or whatever because they're looking for their twin flame. And a lot of times when you are searching for somebody, when you are looking for that special someone, a lot of times for what you're looking for, you have a preconceived notion, and then you wind up pushing away some really good opportunities because they don't fit your preconceived notion. And when you tie in being energy sensitive on top of that, where you are able to feel them and feel all the excitement, but also feel all the doubts too. So you're addressing your own doubts, but now you're actually feeling their doubts too, then that kind of creates a bit of a...
It's a layer of complexity that other people don't have to address.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, when you're first starting to see someone, there is all this doubt and kind of nervousness, and like you're feeling stuff and you're wondering how they're feeling, and you know, and then you're being an empath, now you're feeling all this other stuff, and you know, some of it may be related to you and some of it may not be, but really what it's about is just giving it some time to see if there's this connectivity, and you'll feel that right away, like you feel the spark. But then, you know, there are these feelings of, you know, am I attracted to this person? And then on top of the attraction, it's not just the attraction, but there's enough there where you don't grow tired of each other or weary of each other. There's always stuff to talk about. And so, gosh, I mean, David and I have been together
24 years plus, right?
Yeah. But I remember before I met him, I would, you know, date some
These
guys
are the dark
casually.
days, right?
Yeah, the dark days. The pre-David dark days. You know, I date someone and I think they were very attractive, but we had like very little to talk about, or there was no depth there, or no real connection, or there was a connection, but then there wasn't really a lot of attraction. And you really need both, and it's complicated. And so, you know, the first part is really knowing yourself and understanding what you need and what you want, and not relying on someone else to give that to you.
But
because
also,
when you don't need it, you're more likely to get it.
Yeah, right on.
Does that make sense?
Well, it's the, I think they say this, those who have will be given more. Those who don't have will be given less.
And if you're coming from lack,
you
draw the wrong people.
Exactly
like you have this neediness, and either they sense your neediness and they push back, and then you're like, why does everyone reject me all the time? Why
or they take advantage, right?
Right?
And then they roll on.
And it goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't come from a place of lack and get something that feels really good and abundant. You have to come from this place of strength and abundance and knowing. And so
let's break it down though to like a couple of things people could think about. Like one, like time, right? Your attitude is, it takes time. And so if you'll address that, then I'll address the energy stuff.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of contradict myself, and this is going to seem kind of strange, but when David and I met, it was instantaneous. We were automatically drawn to each other. It took time for us to go on our first date because we lived far apart from each other. But the first date, we knew immediately we were going to get married.
Right.
Like, we knew that we just had that connection, that spark. We hammered through all the details. We were right in sync with each other. It was like done.
Yeah. And I think I asked you to marry me on that first date, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Yeah. And I said yes. But I didn't marry him the same day, which he wanted. We waited 5 years. But I did say yes.
So hey, it takes time. So we had that incubation 5-year period.
Don't rush it. Yeah. So you may
engaged.
feel that spark initially, but it does take time to get to know somebody. And so a lot of times you feel this initial spark. You're feeling all this stuff, and especially, you know, being empathic is really lonely and isolating, and so you really want to connect with someone,
just
like
really one
person
to have your back, right? And to settle your mind, because as an empath, energy sensitive, part of our challenge is that we doubt our mental stability, right? Because we're so emotionally caught up in what we're feeling, and when you don't have that mastery, when you're not able to feel it and kind of rise above it and understand it as information, but when you're actually living that, right? Well, then add the relationship gig on top of that, and now you've got another person that you're working with, and then, you know, you're feeling that person. So let's say you go out with that person and you're noticing their energy as it relates to other people. Let's say you went to a bar. I'm a bad example, but you know what I'm saying. You went to a bar, you're in this people, I'm with Nance, pretending that she's new, right? And then
I'm always new.
You've always
new.
But then, you know, hey, you're feeling her maybe reach out because she thinks this guy's attractive, or this guy or that guy thinks she's attractive, and you feel this thing, and then all of a sudden you're saying, well, wait a minute, you get what I'm saying? Like, And so that hurts a lot of empaths because, if I walk by somebody who's attractive and I notice them, and Nance was an empath, let's say, she would feel that, right? And then she would say, well, then I'm somehow less than.
Right.
Does that make sense? So,
which isn't the case. I mean, attraction's attraction. It's not about that. And it's not totally fair to the other person because they may not even know that you feel those things that they're doing, and they can't help it, and it's not about you necessarily. So like it adds this whole layer of like you're trying to relax on the date and trying to get to know them, and then you're feeling all this stuff, and you're feeling stuff from the people behind you that aren't even about them. So it's hard to focus and really like separate and feel just that person. So I think that's why it's also really important when you're getting to know someone to give it time, to not rush into judgment about what you're feeling and experiencing, because it can be tainted. And also,
I'm going to stop you there. That's a really great. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's a really great point. I mean, it is tainted because it's not. Keep in mind that when you're feeling something, you're feeling a snapshot. So unless you're there for an extended period of time where you feel the wavelengths so that you can see where it gets, high and low.
A point of measure.
Yeah, right? I'm saying with time, you're able to see that doesn't have as much of an impact, right? But if I feel you, like you're out, like in this example, right? And I feel that, then all of a sudden that stays, and then you start to cycle that, because what that's really doing is triggering kind of your aloneness.
A cycle, like a pattern.
Yeah, because what happens as an empath is, and this is what I think the key one is, where we get this kind of like, we want to crawl up in a ball and not be around anybody, is because when you're out in life and you're feeling, and you run across somebody and you feel that they don't like you, all of a sudden, the mastery, right, would be like, hey, I feel you don't like me, but I'm still able to express love to you, right? That would be that's what we're all attempting to become, is somebody like that, right? Where we have the stimulus and we're still able to do good, be good, feel good, even when the stimulus is not so good or contrary to that, right? Well, back to the relationship stuff. If you tie these kind of things in, then these little things that, so for Nance would say, if we got in an argument, for example, and communication obviously is key to everything.
That's a whole other video.
That's a whole, yeah. But because we communicate, but I was able to, now as a guy, it's hard because we don't, you don't want to seem weak, I don't want to.
It's harder for men to communicate their feelings.
Yeah, because it's not our, most
Women
guys,
are more
it's not
about
our
expressing their feelings. Yes.
So now all of a sudden, I'm an empath, right, and I'm feeling this stuff, and then I'm having to try to address it, like in my own mind, in my own beingness, and trying to get guidance, and then on top of that, I'm now with another person who, I'm gonna say, exacerbates some of those challenges, because now I'm dealing with two people's stuff instead of just mine.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because someone said to me recently, an empath that we're working with, said...
That would be.
Right? Said,
that is what we do.
I'm in this relationship and I really like this person, but I have to take a break sometimes because it's exhausting to me trying to always think about what they need, and, like basically cleaning them, like feeling all their stuff, and then trying to like be on my best because they're feeling all this stuff and they don't want to lash out in response to like all the stuff they're feeling. So it's like controlling your energy and then also controlling theirs, and being mindful of how they feel and taking on their feelings and then not like pushing back. And so he said it's exhausting. And so I have to take a break sometimes and just have like a day to myself. And David and I do that all the time. We have space in the house that's like where we chill out. So it's like we don't even say anything anymore. It's just kind of like, he'll go to his space and I'll go to mine, and I'll do my thing, and then he'll come back and he's like, oh, you doing your thing? And I'll be like, yeah. And he's like, you want to get together a little bit and do something together? I'm like, yeah, sounds good. We're very respectful of each other's space, and that's also really important.
But I think the key to the relationship side, when you find, is the touchstone. So for me, Nance is my rock. So when I'm...
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. When I'm floating, when I'm in it, which happens, right? Nance gives me space to be in it, but then helps to bring me back. So over time...
And you can't expect that right away.
No.
That takes a long time to develop. So the initial part, which we were kind of touching on,
we've been everywhere, haven't we?
Yeah. The initial part when you're trying to see if someone's right for you is give it a little time. Don't be overly anxious. Don't get caught up in those initial feelings or things that may potentially taint the relationship.
Try not to, I know it's hard because you're excited about this person and this is like the one thing you've been wanting, but I'm trying to tell you that if you try not to overanalyze what you're feeling, and particularly what you're feeling about the other person, try this. Here's one simple technique if you're empathic, energy sensitive, intuitive, whatever. I feel something from Nancy. Instead of acting upon that, it verbally or emotionally, like in myself, like cycling, bringing up triggers or whatever, I try to let it sit and I try to let it pass. Because what's interesting is when I tap back into her 15 minutes later, it's a totally different feeling. So that tells me that I would have, in my old me, I would have said it was me, right? Like she feels this way because of me. Something I did, something I am, something I'm not, whatever, right? When in reality, because we're feeling wavelengths all the time, that had nothing to do with me. It was just pointed at me because she might be talking to me or in the same space or whatever. Right. But it wasn't about me. But
it could have also been something that happened 5 minutes before you even showed up.
Yeah, right on.
And it's like this energy that I'm trailing about something else, like a conversation I had at work or something like that. And I'm still carrying the hum of it because I'm still thinking about it and processing it. And then he automatically thinks it's him. And, now we're at the point where he says, what's wrong? I'm feeling that you're stressed out or whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's not you. I just had this call.
But you have to believe that. So with us, 24 years.
There's a lot of trust.
There's a lot of trust.
There's a lot of trust that's evolved over those years.
But you feel it. And as you gain mastery in your own skills, you'll start to delineate between what's Nancy's, what's mine, and what's, what Nancy may have brought in, from something else that isn't mine, right? But I would have in my past said it was mine, right? So the key here is lighten up. I mean,
let go initially.
Yeah.
I know it's really hard, but just let go initially and give it time and feel it out
and take it
see
slow.
How it feels each time you see that person, and don't do what David says. Do what David says, but don't do the thing that he says about.
Don't do what I say. It's probably better.
Generalizing based on one interaction and saying, "Oh, they feel this way," because you don't know what's going on in their lives, and everybody has their stuff that's happening that can have nothing to do with you at all.
But it gets put on you, and you feel like it got put on you, right? So it's really about having that stability in yourself. So I'm going to break this down real quick.
Break it down.
One, you have to be clear on you. So we've talked about this, that you have to reduce the rings in you. When you reduce those things inside of you that create triggers in you, when something happens that creates a negative spiral in you, then as you reduce those things, you aren't faced with as much BS. It starts to lighten up and you're kind of floating above, right? And then you add this relationship on and it starts to be kind of cool because you start to realize that it's very hard to do this by yourself long term because everyone needs just that one other person to kind of ground them, stabilize them when they need it, right? You're a kite. So as an energy sensitive, we're like kites, right? We fly around, we feel this stuff. Somebody's got to be holding the other end of the kite.
That's right.
So this is going to happen for you. There is somebody there for you. But what you can't do is force that play. Just like you can't, just like you can't force yourself to forgive somebody, you can't force yourself to love somebody, you can't force yourself, it doesn't work.
You can't force someone to love you.
Yeah, right? You can't manipulate. It's like
you'll know when it's right because it'll feel right. And it doesn't mean it won't have its challenges, but it will definitely fall into place and feel right. There is someone there for you, the right person, but the more you try and force it, the less likely it is that it will happen.
That's right.
And so
our biggest advice is what? Our biggest advice is to
fix yourself first before you get with someone else because they're not meant to fix you.
Yes.
So do the work. When you
and
are
then grow
ready,
together.
Right. When you are ready, open up and don't be afraid to share, but don't overshare. Just take your time. And then the most important one is don't have knee-jerk reactions to
that's key.
Quick, pulses of energy or the
on what
way
you felt,
think.
which may not be accurate.
Right. Don't overanalyze it. In other words, if the first date was, really good, but you felt like they were feeling something, first of all, it's okay for them to feel like they're not sure about you because they don't know you. So it's okay. And that can take some time, and a lot of people take time to trust. have a few dates, have different kinds of dates. Maybe one that's not out in public, maybe one you sit and you watch a movie at home, or do something where you know, go for a hike or whatever. So you have that peaceful time where there isn't a lot of this energy distraction.
That's really key.
So you can really delineate between
who they are and who you are,
right,
and what you might be feeling.
Circumstances were, and if it was really more related to circumstances.
Right.
So give it that kind of time and do different types of things with that person, and then make your judgment as to whether you think they could be right for you.
Right on.
And you know, and trust in yourself. You have that inner voice that speaks to you. Just trust and know that you're worth it, and know that you deserve it. And everyone deserves someone special in their life.
Particularly,
and you shouldn't be alone.
me. That's why I found this one.
That's right. You're very deserving.
I am. All right, so thank you. This was quite a long one. Apologize, but
Hope it was helpful.
Yeah, I hope it's helpful. And until next time,
time.
peace.
See you all.